Jonathan Gullis, who has been inside number 10, had a croissant and some orange juice, no doubt, and he's going to blank me. But, JG, did he convince you and your fellow right-wing doubters that this policy is right?
Well, Jeremy, I'm going to be very dull and tell you that I'm going to respect the privacy of the meeting because I was very grateful for the Prime Minister making time. But you and I both know that I have grave concerns with the legislation, particularly around the individual claims aspect, and only repeated what I've said publicly, which is I want to make sure that this bill works, that we do get planes off the ground, because if we don't, then we will suffer for the consequences of that by the British electorate at the next general election. Whether we like it or not, Rwanda has become absolutely central to whether or not we can deliver on our promise to stop the boats, and therefore I want to make sure this bill works in order to achieve that.
Well, you would also understand me, we're mates. Are you abstaining or voting for or against?
Jeremy, I haven't yet made that decision, that's all I can tell you for now.
All right.
Well, interesting. So it obviously wasn't convincing.
Well, no. Well,
enough.
you got to respect something. I mean, it's good of JG to come on. To be fair, he's just literally come out of the meeting. He says. So what we gather from that, Jonathan, without pushing you, is reflection. You've literally come out of the meeting. You need a bit of time to think about it for it to get in, right?
Yeah, look, there were points made by both sides regarding the legislation. There's some legal technicalities that I want to now go and check with some legal experts. Myself not being a trained lawyer, you'd understand that I want to hear from prominent KCs. But look, I still have those concerns that we'll end up being bogged down with individual claims. That means that we'll see very few people put on a plane to Rwanda. And as the former Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick, said, we don't want one or two token flights with 5 to 10 people. We need to see planes full to the hilt, flying off regularly to Rwanda, and then I hope other safe third countries, in order to make sure that we have a deterrent that does actually deter people from making that illegal and dangerous crossing across the channel. But,
Jonathan, even if this policy, this legislation goes through, it can only accommodate around 200 asylum seekers with an extra 100 for each year. You can't possibly see that as a deterrent.
Well, actually, what the Rwandan government has got is a scaling-up system. So initially, yes, there would be a couple of hundred, but the ability to rapidly and increase the scale. So there's not actually a cap, and that was made very clear regularly both by the Prime Minister and the former Immigration Minister. There is no formal cap on the system, owning an ability to scale up the scheme. And I do think if we get this scheme working, there'll be other countries waiting to do similar deals with us in order to make sure that we can get those flights off, in order to deter people who choose needlessly to put thousands of pounds in the hands of smuggling gangs and illegally enter our country, crossing very dangerous waters, risking their lives unnecessarily.
And Jonathan, just really quickly, last time you were on the show in October, we were talking about the closure or the decommissioning of a hotel in Stoke that was being used to house asylum seekers. Can you tell us where those asylum seekers have gone, and is the hotel back up and running?
Well, I certainly enjoyed our ding-dong, Nicola, as you know, and I respect you hugely in getting the likes on Twitter. In fact, it was you who inspired me to come back onto X, the social media platform, to make sure that I can get my voice heard. Look, with regards to the individuals in that hotel, you will understand that GDPR means that it would be improper for me to know where those individuals go with those individual cases, because they'll have individual circumstances. But I am able to confirm to you the hotel is not yet open to the public, and there are still people currently being housed there, because it was always going to be in February that we saw the decommissioning of the hotel when everyone's been moved out.
JG, one question before I talk about Lineker, and maybe you can answer this, maybe you can't. You've just said, you know, if Rwanda works as a deterrent, Nick's pointed out, possibly 300, 400, I don't know. Other countries could do similar deals. You strike me as a politician who tries to serve your constituents. Would I be wrong in saying that the majority of British people want one thing and one thing only? A politician to stand up and say, we've got 170,000 people in a backlog. The Home Office ain't fit for purpose. I might not get it done in my tenure, but I am going to change the Home Office so that backlog can be dealt with. Rather than this, I understand it. Is it a deterrent? I don't know. I don't think so. It's a small number you're dealing with. Why are we not changing the system so those 170 are processed, pal? That's my question.
So to be perfectly clear, there have been changes in the Illegal Migration Act to the way that people can make appeals. So those who arrived after that act was introduced will obviously have a much limited scope in order for them to make appeals against, one, being deported, but also being able to claim asylum. We've got rid of that right if you come here illegally. In terms of processing, we've seen the doubling of caseworkers, I believe, and I hope I've got that fact correct, hired by the Prime Minister, and therefore we should be seeing a speeding up in the processing system. But Jeremy, you are right. We do need to improve processing. But if we're accepting around 70%, as we currently are, of all those making claims, then all we're going to do is act as an attractive proposition for smugglers to say you have a 7 in 10 chance of successfully getting through the system if you enter the United Kingdom illegally, whereas in France it's only around 20%. So I actually want to see the rejection stamp come out more and be used much more vigorously in order to make it clear that if you come here illegally, you've actually got a very limited chance of being able to get through a successful asylum claim, if not, in fact, be immediately deported to other safe third countries like Rwanda.